Welcome to W050 Women Over 50 Embody Wisdom and Wellness.
Hello, everybody. My name is Corrine, and I'm here with my BFF, Eddi. And today our topic is breath of life, healing and awareness with the breath.
It was, wow, a good talk. We talked about lots of things.
I just didn't think we'd have that many things to talk about with the breath, but there's mindfulness, there's the importance of breathing with your cells, there's awareness, there's stress reduction.
How to help with sleep for our brain, oxygenation to our cells, how important it is for our lymphatic system, like for just everything, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we give a few brief techniques and statistics. So we hope you enjoy this one. Hi, Eddi.
Hi, Ken. How's it going?
I am so good. Do you know that how much I love Mondays?
I do too. I love Mondays.
I love Mondays. Like I'm so excited. Like on Saturday, when I know it's going to be Monday, and we're going to be recording our podcast on Monday. Like most of the time, Mondays we do it, and I just absolutely love Mondays because like my whole day is carved out around our podcast.
Yeah.
Monday's podcast day.
Well, it is. And today I went into the office and I saw this beautiful lady that said she loves listening to us. And I'm like, really? She goes, oh my gosh, did I turn it on? And it's calming. So every time I feel like I'm thinking too many negative thoughts she goes, I just turned on one of your podcasts and I hear these voices that comes into my room. And she got really emotional and it made me emotional because I went, that is so sweet. Yay. I said, oh, thank you. I said, thank you. So little hey going out to her.
Yeah,
she's a gem. Yeah.
I get that quite often too. You know, when I'll mention it like in the meditation night or something like that, and somebody will say, oh, I already listened to it. I love it so much. I just feel like I'm sitting in the room with you guys. You're so cute together, and it's so much good information and so positive. And I'm like, that's why we do it. I'm so
well,
happy.
It's funny. I said to her, it's the time where you need to take a breath. And oh my goodness, that's what we're going to talk about today.
Yes, our topic is the breath of life, healing and awareness with breath. So, I mean, as a yoga teacher for many years and meditation teacher, breath has certainly been very important for me. And I know for you, Eddi, because it is important for you because you have had sinus issues your whole life.
Oh my God. Well, not my whole life, up until, my half of my life anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's so important for people that have allergies and sinus conditions and blocked noses and food allergies that affect their sinuses, right? And so breathing is so important because it's whatever way we can get that oxygen into our bodies. And a lot of times we don't realize our little noses are blocked up, that we're mouth breathing, or, how often do we stop to just breathe, to go, oh, I must fill my lungs now. We talk about it so much over our lives because it's been, you got to breathe when you're stressed, or you breathe when why don't you just breathe when you think about it?
Yeah, that's a great point. That's a great point. It's like, because when you do things when things are easy is a lot easier to make it a habit when things are going well than to all of a sudden try to breathe when you're feeling anxious. I mean, it is great to do breathing exercise when you're anxious, but to practice it on a daily basis, not just when you think about it, like put an alarm on your iPhone or your smartwatch or whatever, or however you want alarm, like 5 times a day, and just take like 10 breaths or 3 breaths or one conscious aware breath can be like so grounding.
Yes, it's funny, it's on my Apple Watch, there's a little button I can turn on or off, and it tells me to take a breath, a mindful breath.
Really?
And yeah, and the watch, like there's a little thing expands and it goes in and it does, and you feel it vibrate on your wrist. And so when that comes on, I just take a big belly breath and I just breathe into my belly and then feel it, and it gives you about a minute to do it. And I just breathe in and then I breathe out. And And, also in my practice, I often tell people to do the 4-7-8 breath, right?
Yeah,
That's a
that's the
pretty common
anxiety
one.
breath. Yeah.
Yeah, and I know Dr. Wild, Andrew Wild would,
Mhm.
he
He
kind
taught
of
that.
talked.
Yeah, if you
Yeah.
wanna you can look it up if you have anxiety and you wanna learn the breath. It's called the 4-7-8, and you look up Andrew Weil 4-7-8 breath, and a lot of
Mhm.
people teach it online.
Yes, and
So,
it's pretty easy anyway. It's like in for 4, you hold it for 7 and breathe out for 8.
yeah.
But
But
there's
it's
a way of doing it. Yeah.
yeah, there's a way of doing it mindfully, and it's anytime you count with your breath is good because you've gotta be conscious and aware, and your mind can't be wandering.
Mhm.
When you're counting and present with your breath. But you also don't want it to give you anxiety about holding your breath for 7 or letting it out for 8, which is a long time actually. But it's actually a scientific um gosh, with that I wish I had the actual scientific words around it, but it is proven that if your exhale is longer than your inhale, that your nervous system calms. That's a scientific fact.
Yeah, I remember reading that too. It affects your parasympathetic nervous
Mhm.
system
Yep.
mostly.
Yep, it
Yeah.
activates parasympathetic, which is your resting, calming nervous system. And
Mhm.
so when your exhale is longer than your inhale, so even you can just take an in breath and then slowly, slowly, but you don't want to do it so much so that you are
Make
getting
yourself
anxious
dizzy.
that, yeah, or make yourself dizzy. Like that's not the point at all. That's why I just sometimes look up and I've got on bliss.com, my website, I've got some videos on breathing as well. There's
Oh,
a
yeah,
bunch of different things.
you got a really good one there on the alternate nostril breath. I send
Yeah.
lots of people to that one. Yeah,
Nice.
bliss.com
Yeah.
because you have really, I remember you teaching we were on the yoga mat. We were doing teacher training with you and it was the first time I had done this type of breathing and it was breathing into while we're on the mat into different parts of our body and I could feel my rib cage touch the back of the mat like with the breath and I went, "Oh my god, I didn't know I could do that." Like this is what it felt like, It was
Yeah.
so
So in your
real,
body. So in
so
your
in my
body.
body. Yeah.
That's beautiful. And when we're in our body, we're present in the moment. Like it sounds funny to say when you're in your body because we're always
Yeah.
in the present moment and we're always in our body. So because you can still be thinking, your mind can be like the back to the future time machine forwards and backwards. Um, but it's happening in the present moment. It's true. You're thinking
Mhm.
about the past from the present moment because we only always have the moment. However, it's what the way I try to explain it, it's like only a piece of yourself is in the present moment. So your body is here, always here. It can't not be here. It doesn't have the time machine. And your breath is always here because it's connected with your body and it can't live in the past or the future. But your mind can live. So only 2/3 of you. So if a third of you is always out in the past or the future, you're only living your life partially. So
Mhm.
that's why we're saying to embody, to be present in your body. So when you focus on your breath and your body, that's bringing yourself into the present moment and just helps calm. Because most of the time when we have a problem, it's not our problems or even our life situations that are the problem. It's our thoughts about our problems and about our life situations that are the problem.
Yeah.
And so, so dropping those thoughts, which is easier said than done, and really focusing and finding the present moment and your breath more important is one of the keys we wanted to share today.
Yeah, and it really helps when the thought you actually are thinking is about breathing because
Yeah,
then
there
you
you
can't
go.
think another thought, right? It's right
Yep.
there lined up ready to come in, but if you're just spending that little bit of time taking in that breath or you're doing the count breath or you're doing the breath where at night for sleep where you're relaxing, you're breathing into your toes and into your ankles and into your knees, kind of like the sleep nidra yoga
Yeah, there's
thing.
a
But
yoga
yeah.
nidra with the body scan that's another one that I think I have on the site.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
love that one. That's
Yeah.
really nice. Just to it and it does. It helps you get out of your thought, get into your body and with the breathing. You're taking in the oxygen. You think about, you know, when you think about that breath, it's going into your cells, like it's intracellular. It's getting in there. And oxygen kind of cleanses your lymphatic system and you're doing things for your body that you don't even have to think about. All you have to think about is breathing.
Yeah, your body's got all these millions of things that it's doing. It's digesting food and creating new cells and creating energy cells. I mean, so much, is
Yep.
happening. The lymphatics getting rid of the garbage of the what you ate, or the toxins that are in there. All this is happening without you having to think about it.
Yeah, you
And
don't
all
even
you
have to
need
think about breathing.
no, I was
It's
gonna
gonna
say
happen
all you have to
anyway.
do is breathe, but it happens anyway without you even thinking about it. It's like your breath breathes you. But then when you become aware of your breath, it's like an instant grounding meditation.
Yeah.
And it's something we can't do without. This is something I say in yoga, you can do without a limb and you can do without an organ, but you
Yep.
cannot do without your breath.
No,
Like you
it's
try
that
holding your
connection.
breath. You try holding your breath and it's like you start to panic a little bit if you hold your breath for too long.
Mhm.
And we take that for granted. Our breath is breathing us. If we can't get a breath, we will die.
Yep.
We will
Yep.
not be on the planet any longer.
Mhm.
So to connect with the sacredness of the breath,
Mhm.
it
Yeah.
can be so beautiful.
Yeah, that life force,
Mm.
energy, that connection. Yeah. It's so important. We don't talk enough about it. That should be like in schools. We should teach,
Oh,
when I'm with my grandkids and
yes.
they get all worked up, I'm like, hang on, before you even say another word, just take a breath, just breathe, just stop, just stop your lips from moving, stop flapping your gums, close your pie hole. Let's breathe here now. Take a breath and I'll breathe with them and then there's more calmness, right? Because we just think about when people get worked up and they're talking really fast and they can't even breathe. They're like, and yeah, it's just
And
crazy
their
what
breath
we
when
do.
you're upset, I think I've said this on the podcast before, but when you're upset, you'll be anxious or upset or something, and all of a sudden it'll be spontaneous. You won't do it where your body will just go, or when you're crying, and you're crying, and all of a sudden you'll
Yeah,
take this big gulp of air because your body needs the oxygen, it needs the breath, and it'll do that automatically. It's
yeah.
also a regulator because your breath will reflect your mind. And so if you're anxious, your breath is going to be quick. And if you're relaxed, your breath is going to be slow. So in yoga, it's called pranayama. Prana is life force. And your prana, your life force, your oxygen, your breath is it, you can use your breath to slow your mind down. So that's why in yoga, a lot of times you'll go or in meditation and they'll tell you to focus on your breath because it will help to bring your mind more present into the moment. But for some
Mhm.
people, that's very hard to do, especially if you're really anxious. So you're not trying to stop your thoughts or anything. All you're doing is taking a more conscious breath.
Mhm.
And that
Yeah.
slows your mind down. That
And that's
automatically calms anxiousness.
and that's really good when people are trying to sleep too, don't you think? They're trying to rest their brain and settle the mind or whatever it is we're trying to do. Some read a book. Some people are reading and don't even. I'm going. You're not breathing. Take a breath. They're so concentrated on the book or the chapter, and they'll go. And I'm like, you're not taking a breath. Just practice breathing. Just breathe.
Yeah,
It's wild.
it's so, and what I get a lot as a yoga teacher, especially when I teach the breath of fire, is so you're supposed to breathe when you inhale your belly, your low part of your belly. I tell people to place their hand on their belly button when they do this. When you breathe in, your belly extends. And most people think it's the opposite. Most people think because they think of when they take a deep breath that they pull their belly in so they can take the breath in their chest. But that's not actually what's happening. When you breathe in, your belly extends because your diaphragm drops to have more oxygen in your lungs.
Hmm.
So when I do this breath of fire like this quick breath, it's
Yeah.
so hard for some people because they think it's the opposite. They can't do it because they think that when they take a deep breath, their belly goes in. So that's one of the most important things to learn. And I think Eddi, you had it opposite or something it was when we were in class someday, but it switches pretty quickly when you become
Hmm.
aware of it. It's just
Yeah.
that you kind of get anxious when all of a sudden a teacher comes and they're putting their hand on your belly and you're trying to like extend your belly on the inhale and you can't remember what you do. But if you just think about a baby in a crib, and you watch a baby in a crib or a puppy breathing, and they take a breath and their belly gets really big, and then they exhale and the chest of belly collapses. And that's and the
Mhm.
same like, with bellows, same thing when the air coming in expands, air going out, same with the balloon coming in, it's
Mhm.
get so even just being aware of that as you're breathing, your belly is expanding on the inhale and then it's softening on the exhale. That is a big one as well, to have
Yeah.
the breath coming in properly, because it surprises me every time somebody's in my class where they can't even connect to their breath.
Yeah. Yeah. I worked on that one a lot years ago when I was singing and, we'd have to breathe and she would say, "Breathe into your diaphragm, just breathe." I'm like, "I don't have a diaphragm. I mean, I'm not even on birth control." No, I'm kidding. But
Silly girl.
But we're breathing deep into the belly, deep into the belly button, and a lot of us go around holding our stomachs in as women, we're like, "Oh,
Yes,
okay, I
so
gotta hold
true.
my stomach in," and it's that breathing it out and those lovely little bellies. When you look at artwork from years ago, those lovely little bellies are there, and
The Renaissance age.
yeah, they're breathing, and Corinne's filling in the storyline. Yeah.
It's
She
okay.
knows how I operate.
Yes, yeah.
But that breath is so important, you
So,
know?
Eddie, can you talk about the physiological at the cell, why the cells need oxygen?
Well, it's the mitochondria, it's the spark plug of the body, it's our cellular energy. We need oxygen. The cells can't exist without it. It's important for the blood. It's important for brain, for cognition, to prevent cognitive decline. Our brain, our heart, our lymphatic system, three main areas of the body thrive on oxygen. So the higher the quality of the oxygen we're getting into our cells, the richer the blood, right? You look at iron and all the minerals that we need in our body. Well, they need the oxygen for transportation. Like
Mm,
these things, the oxygen takes things deep into the tissues and into the cells, and it's really, yeah. I mean, it's very, very, very important.
mhm. Yeah, because I
Yeah.
remember I had my uncle, my dad's younger brother, he had vascular dementia and they didn't know it. He wasn't diagnosed until a week before he died. And he lived
Mhm.
alone, so they didn't realize how bad his memory had gotten. And then it took them weeks and weeks to diagnose it, or probably months. And it was vascular dementia, which is not enough oxygen to the brain, I believe, right?
That's right. That's right. We need oxygen. So when we practice breathing techniques or go to yoga, or even people that do, cardio or walking, I mean, the reports are always being released, scientific results from different beautiful universities that we've all attended. And even during COVID, I did the psychology of well-being at Yale and do some distance learning and um, learned the effect of yawning, that yawning was looked upon years ago as boredom, and it's not. It's actually the brain stretching to take in oxygen to keep that information in. So there's more learning when we actually yawn.
So
So
it's not the brain stretching,
well, it's not literally stretch. Well, when you look at
it's
the
the
brain, it
brain
goes.
triggering. Would
Yes,
that be
but there
more
is
correct?
neoplasticity. There is more neoplasticity happening in the brain, which is kind of like the brain stretching, but I say it loosely, but it just means there's more oxygenation. So there's more oxygen going into the cells, so the information is landing correctly.
Hmm.
So we tend to yawn, sometimes out of boredom, but a lot of times it's expansion.
Well, if somebody's bored, maybe they're not breathing too. So I mean, it's amazing. I mean, and I know that everybody listening has had this happen to them before, where you'll just be doing something and so focused, you're thinking, I don't think I'm breathing right now. Yeah, and so just to be conscious of that, and that is one of the best anti-aging things. It's anti-anxiety,
Hmm.
anti-aging. It's pro health and longevity, pro brain health.
Helps, yeah. helps your lymphatic system clear out toxins.
Mhm.
It's a delivery system. I mean, it's every cell needs oxygen.
Mm.
We
Yep.
need we need it in our body. We need it head to toe. There's trillions of cells, so we need a we need a lot of air.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's interesting. People, are always interested in eating the right foods and taking the right supplements. And really, that's all great if you have the money and the time to do all those kinds of things, but really just breathing properly will help increase your health and have huge amounts of health benefits just as much as those other things, if not more.
hmm Yeah. Well, if you think about even anxiety, and you work really hard at just regulating your breath, you immediately start to feel something slowing, and that's the cortisol levels. That's the stress hormones kind of, you know, uh, declining. So they're starting to decrease. And then the more you breathe, the more you feel back in control. And that's the whole thing. Once you feel back in control of your breath, there's a calmness, and that does affect your parasympathetic nervous system.
So
So,
what
and
so what sorry, I missed that. So what do you when you feel cortisol high, what are you doing?
well, when you breathe, your everything, your attention is going to the breath. You're taking in more oxygen, so
Mhm.
the body doesn't feel as panicked, because
I
we get
see. I see.
panicked when we're hyperventilating, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
So, what do we do sometimes when people hyperventilate? Years ago, we'd have you breathe into a bag.
Right, right, which does what?
Well, you're breathing back in your own oxygen and CO2, and you're changing levels to get your body to calm down. So, now you can do it. You don't have to breathe into a paper bag. You can actually just slow the breath, just breathe, take in those three deep breaths, do the 4-7-8 breath, the
Yeah.
slow out,
Mm.
because you're calming your nervous system,
Yeah.
is what you're doing. You're allowing your lymphatic system to come out of kind of alarm mode, because a lot of times when we're panicked or anxious or can't catch our breath, the whole body's in alarm state, right? And that's what cortisol is. It's an alarm state.
Mhm.
Cortisol jumps up. So we start to calm the body. We take a breath, because what's the first thing if you find somebody on the side of the road and they're hyperventilating or they're shaking, you're like, okay, just breathe. Just, you're okay. You're okay. We got you here. Just breathe. So when we do that to our body and we take a breath, we're like, okay, I got this. There's a breath that just went in.
I remember my mom was having a panic attack one time, and we were driving to the airport, and this was like 5 years ago or so when she was first starting to have some memory issues, and we had taken a different way than she was used to, and she started to feel and she goes, like, Corinne, I'm feeling a little panic. I said, okay, mom, just breathe. She goes, I can't. So I just stopped the car and I talked her through it. And I
Mm,
said, yes, you can. I want you to follow my breath. You'll inhale with me, and then and then she could do it. And I've actually been in several situations with people like that. When you tell them to take a breath, they're like, I can't. But as soon as you guide them to do
mm-hmm.
it and either do it with them or do it, then they're okay. They can do it. It's just your mind
Yes.
is spinning so much and you're so, like, the
Mm-hmm.
cortisol levels are up and there's anxiousness. You can't think properly. You don't think you can breathe, but
Mm-hmm.
you just start slow and just slow it down and focus on your breath, because panic attacks are no joke. If you've never had one
Oh,
before, if you had one before,
oh yeah.
how scary it can be.
It is scary. Yes. I've not had many in my life, but I've had a couple, and yes, they're scary.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, and you can breathe through them with the guidance of a really good friend sometimes,
Yeah.
depending on where you are in the world and what the
Yeah.
situation is. Yeah, we might share that story down the road, but the
Yeah.
breath is so important. I
Yeah.
remember when I was 11, my cousin pushed me into a swimming pool and I didn't know how to
Oh.
swim. And I
Oh.
went in the deep end and got
Oh.
pulled out, and I was spewing water. And I remembered fighting for that breath, right? So, and yeah, and it took years to get over that fear of the water and falling in and drowning and having that experience. Like, it's like, wow, that's, yeah, a panic attack in its glory right there. But that breath coming in, that feeling of, your body pinking up again, and even just, it's just amazing to watch life come into the world when someone has a child. And I remember giving birth and my child coming out and not the right color and then pinks up, and that breath of life, like, wow, where it connects and how it connects. And yeah, the
We
breath is so
inhale.
important.
The first thing we do when we come into the world is we inhale, and the last thing we do is we exhale.
Hmm.
We inhale into the world and exhale out of the world. I think that's just a miracle, just that.
And there it is in one sentence: breathe in, breathe out.
Yeah. So it
What's
can seem, what's that?
what was that saying? I used to say it was somewhere, but it was you who said it. The difference between life and death. You had it in one of
Yes,
your
it was in one of my
songs.
songs. The difference between life and death is just a breath. Just
It's
a
just a
breath.
breath.
Yeah.
Yes.
Who's dreaming
Yes.
this dream song?
Yes. That's a beautiful
The
song.
difference between life and death, just a breath. Just a
Yeah.
breath. Yeah.
Yeah. It's true. It's
Hmm.
amazing. It's a good song. So, yeah, so the oxygenation is so important for everything in our body, for our mind, body, spirit, everything.
Hmm. And even more, I mean, it's important at every stage of life, but even more important as we get older, as everything else is. Just even because our bodies, I think you've said this before, are kind of forgiving when we're young.
Mm-hmm.
Like our digestive system for the most part can be quite forgiving. Like I remember I used to be able to eat Chinese food at 3 in the morning. I would lose weight. It's
Yeah.
just
You're hungry in 20 minutes.
right. I could eat anything I wanted at any time all through my 20s, and now it's like I look at a piece of fruit
I know.
anyways. But so our bodies are more forgiving and they're not as forgiving as we get older. And so we do have to pay more attention to our breath and
Mm-hmm.
to our stress level. And we
Mm-hmm.
do have control over these things and we don't have to spend any money
That's
on
right.
our breath. Yeah, and we
It's
can
like
watch
it's
things
like
on YouTube.
well, yeah, and just look at your garden. It needs water, it needs the sun, it needs air, to grow and
Hmm.
thrive, and nutrients, and we're very similar. The the
Yeah.
the breath. And but the thing is, we get to think, and then when we think, we get to not think and park thoughts and choose breathing for a little bit, hopefully.
Yeah. Parking our thoughts. And if you ever try to consciously park your thought, it's almost impossible. So the best way to do it in a tricky way, in the back doorway, is to just put more attention on your breath than you do whatever stressful thought you're trying to think about, which sometimes
Hmm.
is very challenging, but at least
Hmm.
it's a start, is to just come back to the awareness of even how your breath feels coming in through your nose. Oh, that's another thing I wanted to mention too, is that the reason why you're supposed to breathe in through your nose specifically, I mean, you're supposed to actually do all your breathing through your nose, is because your mouth is for talking and your mouth, and you do breathe a little in through your mouth when you're talking a lot, especially if I
Hmm.
talk fast, there is a little bit of air coming in through my mouth. But and the mouth is for eating and the nose is for breathing because there are specific filters in there that clean
Hmm.
out the air as it comes in. And so breathing through the nose is very, very important.
All those little nose hairs have little built-in cleaning system in there, and they filter the bacteria. But then, I had a basketball injury years ago, so my nose is broken, my deviated septum. So I can breathe if it ever gets blocked. Like I said to Krim one time, I said, no, I don't eat and drink dairy products because it's like glue to me. I don't digest it well, but it blocks my sinuses. I can't breathe. And I have many, many patients like that. They go, oh, as soon as I have dairy, some people can digest it and do well with it. Some can't. But for me, it's an immediate mucous membrane swell, and it stops. And then, and I'm like, I don't like having pinholes to breathe through.
Yeah. Yeah. I like funny when you said that. You said you had two little pinholes to breathe from.
A
And I'm
little
like, oh,
breathe.
it's awful.
Yeah, you got to breathe through that. But that's why there's a lot of people in the world like that, and they
Mm-hmm.
have to
Mm-hmm.
concentrate on breathing. Even
Mm-hmm.
singers, and you know
Mm-hmm.
that breath work that they have to do to
Mm-hmm.
be able to hit those notes. I mean, that's all
Mm-hmm.
breath. It's all breath work.
Mm-hmm.
We run
Yeah.
out of air when we're in the middle of a song or a note. It sounds like a squeak, you know?
Mhm. Yeah, it sure
So
does. Just
so that
reminds me
breathing. Yeah.
Yeah, it reminds me of Willie Nelson had some heart and lung issue. I think when he turned 80, he just turned 90 now, but I've been listening to his book. Like I've listened to like 3 or 4 of his books. He's written a bunch and I love them, especially when he's like, I like the Audible version. He's talking them, but he's got this new book that Ethan Hawke has, is talking on the Audible, but Eddie's going to get the book part because she likes to read the book, but I like to listen. And it's called Energy Follows Thought. And
Mm,
what he and Willie talked a lot about his singing, and that when he sings, it's good for his health because he's taking deep breaths all the time. And it's one of
mm.
the things that was hard because he had to stop singing for a while when he was having heart problems and lung problems. But then it's also the thing that it healed him too. Once he got to a certain point, it was the thing that was strengthening him.
It's interesting. Hey, I love Willie. He's amazing. I've
Oh my
seen him a
gosh,
few times in
amazing
concert,
human.
and
Yeah.
yeah, amazing human. And yeah, that breath, the breathing is so important. Like I was thinking when I remember doing music and my nervous system would take over, where I even shared this with you, where I would get so panicked I couldn't breathe, like I would go, okay, it's going to pass, but I wasn't even nervous. It was like something took over that made me nervous because I'm like, I'm not nervous. And then this nervous thing clicks in, right? Which that's our parasympathetic nervous system in action again.
That's not working. That's your sympathetic in
I mean, my
action.
sympathetic, sorry.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
kicking in, right? Think parts of us that are kicking in when we least expect it. And I'm going, okay, I have to breathe. This won't take very long. As soon as I breathe, this will pass. And it does. And it did. And it will.
It's so funny because when I'm nervous, I'm very conscious about it. I know I'm nervous and my legs shake and my mouth gets dry and my voice will even shake. And yeah, the breath isn't there. That's usually for going on stage or for speaking or for.
Yeah.
I remember one of my teachers, Adi Ashanti, I put up my hand to ask him a question. And he picked me because there's like 400 people in the audience and the chances of getting asked are very slim. But I mean, I was so nervous asking him the question. I don't even remember what the question or the answer was. I had to buy the recording to listen to it back. So when I'm nervous, I know that I'm nervous.
Oh yeah. Oh well, I know when I'm nervous too, but it's I might be going into a situation where I'm not feeling nervous and then all of a sudden I'm nervous,
Your body's nervous
The
first.
body is, yeah.
Yeah.
It's not the
Yeah.
thought isn't there like I have this, right? I know what my wheelhouse is, and then boom, something takes over. I was like, wow. Cell memory.
The body,
Yeah.
man.
It's
Yeah.
absolutely amazing. And sometimes, right when you least expect it, it's like people, who come in and go, why is this? I get these panic attacks. And I'm just like, don't worry about why it's happening. Just let's start working on how you can breathe through it, how you
Yes.
can get out of the thought of what's wrong with me or what is happening to me. Like
Yeah.
we talked about before, it's just happening.
Yeah.
And let's breathe through it. And because the breath is the first thing, it's the
Yeah.
first thing we have to really,
Yeah.
it's so important. And we don't talk enough about it.
Yeah, yeah, and
Teach
like
our
you said,
kids.
yes, teaching the kids is so important. If they somebody was saying even teaching your kids to take a couple of breaths before they eat, because they're usually coming in from running around, they're still in sympathetic. And so if your kid
Mm.
has digestive problems or allergies, to have them, that's what prayer, one of the things that praying before your food does is it prepares your body
Oh,
for
yeah, that's
food. It
true.
calms your nervous system, puts your body into parasympathetic to rest and digest, to digest your food.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
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 That's a lovely thing. I heard another thing about prayer. Prayer is um no, singing. That's what it is. It's coming into my head now. Singing is praying twice.
Singing is praying twice?
Yeah. Somebody said that years ago. When
Huh.
you sing, it's like when we wish for things or pray about things or meditate on life and connection and all this. But singing is, yeah, it's like the
I would say
doubly
singing's
effect.
yeah, singing's yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I remember singing for me was always very meditative, I would say.
Hmm.
because it's
Oh,
very
yeah.
present moment.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
just took a sip of my tea
You
just now.
did.
It's really good.
And that can
I
also
didn't
mindfulness sipping of the tea.
Yeah, take a breath before you sip your tea because if you don't, you might choke.
And you can also breathe on your tea then so you don't burn your tongue.
Yeah, yeah.
If there's anybody with
It's a good idea.
ADHD out there, one of the things, well, this is actually good for anybody. You can talk to yourself. This is a Buddhist technique, but it's also great for, it's like, I'm picking up my tea. The teacup is warm. I'm bringing and you're actually talk outside to yourself. I'm bringing the tea to my mouth. I'm going to blow on it. You take a drink. Oh, that tea was really good. Say that out loud. You talk to yourself out loud because a lot ADHD people have a voice going on in their head constantly. And so
Mhm.
if they talk out loud, it's actually slowing down their thoughts and helping them to be present in the moment.
That's lovely. That's a good
Mhm.
technique.
Mhm. It's a good
Hmm.
technique for anybody for mindfulness because what we do, especially when we're like getting dressed or we're in the shower, we're brushing our teeth or getting ready to go out the door, driving somewhere, we're in our heads, we're planning the day, whatever. And it becomes such habit that most of our life is lived in a fantasy world in our head. And we think it's important because we think we have plans to do and we think and yes, there are certain things the mind is great for, but we don't need to be in the head nearly as much as we think we do. So I know there was just balloons. I had both hands up and somehow balloons went up on the Zoom. That is so funny.
That was
I
really
wonder if that'll
cute.
be on the recording. I don't know.
I don't know.
Anyways, Eddi, well, I didn't think we'd have that much to talk about the breath, but apparently we did. Because
We
breath is
did.
life. Literally,
It
breath is
is.
life.
Breath of life.
Breath
Yeah.
is life.
Improve our mental clarity and our focus and oxygen to the cells. And here's to our breath.